Welcome, my name is Isabella Brusati and I am the founder of Isabella Brusati Consulting. My company specializes in cross-border mergers and acquisitions, integration and restructuring. In this video specifically I will be talking about the role of human resources in cross-border mergers and acquisitions. I know most of you will start rolling their eyes and going, oh, for God's sake, here we go on this softy stuff, fluff, because it's human resources. One of the main problems is that during mergers and acquisitions, whether they are national or international level, one of the main points that has to be managed is the fact that people are undergoing a very, very high amount of stress. And this should fall within the remit of the human resources department. However, in most companies, human resources department don't have a very good reputation. And I must say that, in all honesty, I've worked with some human resources professional and I wouldn't actually give them the responsibility of dealing with mergers and acquisitions because they don't have the skills, they don't have the ability and they don't have the experience. However, this is not the case for whole human resources department. Of course, that would be a very unflattering view and that wouldn't even be true. So, amongst the strategy of a company, there is also the one to develop a human resources function that is capable of supporting the business in achieving their goals. If you operate in a company that in the future foresees a number of acquisitions or mergers, usually acquisitions are more likely rather than mergers, it's actually a good idea to start creating a strategy that is going to create a department, a human resources department that is capable of supporting you during the process, especially during the integration. If it is a one-off deal, it's actually much easier to call in consultants for the simple reason that you cannot afford to get it wrong. And also, you know, it's going to be something that happens once in a while and then you can actually start training people in human resources by basically making them work with the consultants. If you are a company that is embarking into a series of mergers and acquisitions, it actually could be a good idea to start creating a pool of people with the required skills to deal with this type of operations. Usually they are considered extraordinary operations, but in today's market, in all honesty, for some companies these operations are actually the norm and not something that happens once in a while. So, but why is human resources such a basically neglected function? I must say that unfortunately, and this is something that the human resources function should actually take responsibility for. In most cases it's just a support function that basically looks at the operational side, in the sense that they look at the administrative side of things without being proactive. There are a lot of human resources professionals that don't have a business background. Some people cannot even read a balance sheet. And this is, to be honest, for human resources to basically to take their knowledge and to take their input to the next level. However, it's also for the business the responsibility to start hiring and training people that can take this function to the next level. So it's basically a two-way thing. Also because if a company has a human resources function that is fundamentally a personnel department, well, it's very likely going to reflect the type of mentality and culture of that organization. There are plenty of companies, and I must say specifically and most likely technology companies, that tend to have a human resources department that are much more dynamic, and most of all with people that have a 360 degrees knowledge and that are actually able to contribute effectively to the strategy of the company. So they are not an administration function, they are actually also a strategic function. Of course, you know, human resources will always have to process some of the administration, unless you outsource it, but again, here we are talking about the issues of outsourcing, whether it is the best option, whether it is cost effective, whether it is actually something that is going to take the function to the next level or not. So based on the premise that one of the problems linked to the fact that the human resources function is not actively involved in mergers and acquisition is the poor reputation of this function. It is still seen as purely administrative and just basically a support function. We also have to take into consideration that we need to make the switch, so take it to the next level, and how actually the human resources function can help, if staffed correctly, you to deal with mergers and acquisitions. As I said before, mergers and acquisitions are extremely stressful for people, and it's change management, and it's a massive change of the status quo. This basically creates a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, and most of all, there are statistics that show that between 50 to 70% of senior managers tend to leave the company within 2 years after the merger or the acquisition actually has been concluded. That's a very, very high turnover, especially if you consider that in certain cases the reason why you are acquiring a company is because you want to acquire the skills. So if these people basically in the end tend to leave, of course is a little bit of defeating the object of the acquisition itself. Therefore, it appears quite an oxymoron that the company, in the time where the company requires a very high level of loyalty, a high level of commitment, so during the acquisition period and especially during the integration period, actually the function that can better engage the employees is usually not involved, actively involved in the strategy and in the process itself. So in this series of videos I'm going to talk about how involving the human resources function into the mergers and acquisition process, and not only at integration stage, I'm also talking about the stages before, is going to create added value for your company. This is not just a nice to have, this is a must have. However, the premise is that you need to have people that have the right amount of skills. You don't want someone that is not experienced and basically that is just, sort of trying to apply certain kind of methodologies that are okay for a day-to-day management of the human resources function, but clearly are not suitable for the management of the organization during a period of significant change. The human resources function can actually help the employees managing stress, and most of all can actually help retaining those individuals that are considered key for the organization. So using a mixture of retention tools. It can also help maintaining the morale and the motivation within the company, and it can also help managing resistance to change. However, and I keep on stressing this, you need to have the right people in place with the right skill set. If it's not the case, your best bet is actually to engage experienced consultants that are going to come into your company and actually lead you through the process and also show the human resources function how to deal with this kind of operations. I am not for a standardization of mergers and acquisitions. I mean, there is a process that you can put in place, but then of course you need experienced people that are going to understand when the process has to be tweaked. And again, it goes down to experience and to have the right level of people with the right mentality, especially in cross-border mergers and acquisitions. One of the problems that I'm finding when dealing with cross-border mergers and acquisitions is the fact that the senior management tend not to have a lot of international work experience, so most of them have not worked abroad and actually ignore what happens in other countries. And the human resources function, unfortunately, very often doesn't have a very international remit. If you're dealing with mergers and acquisition, that is an issue. An alternative is that to put in place a team of people that is going to be engaged on an ongoing basis on mergers and acquisitions, so that basically they liaise with the different functions, so whether it is IT, whether it is finance, whether it is HR, etc., and they have the right skill set, so that basically you are literally taking them out from the function. But there is going to be a learning exercise, because they will be dealing with the people that carry out the day-to-day activity. But at the same time, especially if you are engaged in ongoing mergers and acquisitions, you want to have people that can do the job and do it in the right way. In the next few videos, we'll be talking about the various aspects that you will have to take into consideration when dealing with the people side of mergers and acquisitions. Thank you so much for watching.